Now, the effect on local law enforcement is the reason my next guest thinks Apple should comply with the government. Cyrus Vance, Jr. is Manhattan District Attorney, and he joins me now. Mr. Vance, you're being used. I'm sure you heard what Ted Olson had to say. You're being used by him and others on the Apple side to make the other side of your argument.
Hello, David. Good afternoon.
Hi.
David, I'm not upset that they're referencing our situation, because I think the American people need to know that there are real and broad consequences following Apple's decision to engineer its phone to be incapable of being opened with a search warrant. So I think the American people need to understand, and I think they would want to understand, that while we spent a lot of time recently talking about this issue in the context of the FBI and the federal government, it's in state courts. 95% of the cases in this country are handled in state courts and local courts, such as a district attorney's office.
And let me just be clear for those listeners now that you yourself, right here in Manhattan, have about 170 iPhones right now that you want to get into. I'm just wondering if the government is successful at forcing Apple to get into the San Bernardino phone, would that set a precedent for you and other prosecutors to get into the phones you have?
I think each case is going to be judged on its own facts. I think certainly should the court affirm the ruling of the magistrate judge, that would be a precedent that would be relevant. But I think we really ought to step back, and I'm looking at this, I think, in actually a broader way. I don't think we're going to be able to solve this problem phone by phone, piece of litigation by piece of litigation. I think Congress has to step in here. It has to assert its control over national security issues and the balance between privacy and public safety, and take that away, because it's effectively been outsourced to Apple and Google.
Yeah, well, it's probably going to be a combination of that and the courts weighing in. But do you believe that Apple itself cannot penetrate their own encryption? I mean, they set it up. They say they can't get into it. Do you believe them?
Well, here's what I can say. When they were operating under iOS 7, which immediately preceded iOS 8, and iOS 8 in September 2014 was their operating system, which they engineered so it could not be opened by the company. Under iOS 7, they marketed iOS 7 as a highly secure platform for communication. And under iOS 7, Apple also specifically referenced the importance it attached to being able to work with law enforcement to solve cases. So I think they are sending mixed messages, and
but do you believe? I need a quick yes or no. Do you believe that Apple can get into this phone?
I actually don't know. They've said they can't, and obviously one hopes to take them at their word.
Right.
It may be that they need to have that issue resolved by hearing.
All right. Well, a lot of people aren't taking them by their word. But let me just one final quote from the late Justice Antonin Scalia and get your quick comment on it. There is nothing new in the realization that the Constitution sometimes insulates the criminality of a few in order to protect the privacy of us all. Of course, that's Apple's position. How do you respond?
The Fourth Amendment is the bulwark in our Constitution on this issue. And the Fourth Amendment has always protected against unreasonable searches and seizures. The question that the courts and the Congress are going to have to ask is it unreasonable when so much of criminal evidence now resides on smartphones because they're being used by criminals to commit crimes and store information? Is it unreasonable for the government and courts to be able to access those devices when a court has determined there is probable cause, the evidence is there, and gives a warrant to enforce the order? I believe that's what the Constitution, that's the balance the Constitution is designed to have, and we'll see what happens over the next couple.
It's a brave new world. That's for sure. A lot of new technology means we perhaps are going to have a lot of new laws to deal with that technology. Cyrus Vance, Jr., thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
David, thanks so much.